Graceful greetings, Uncle Nathaniel. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday. All right, y'all. Happy Monday. It is July the 19th, 2021, day 210 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count. It is day 879. Y'all, today we're reading Jeremiah 10, and 11, and 12. Then we're going to pick up where we left off at yesterday in Fossilized Custom on page 245. Mom, shalom, Lavon, blessings, blessings. All right, y'all. Let's go get up here and get started. Pull up here the Shema. Just found in Deuteronomy chapter 6. Oh, do we fix this? Do we fix this? There we go. Boom. Okay. Shema. Okay, there we go. All right, Shema, found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verse 3, y'all. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the Elohim of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our mighty one, he is one. And you shall love Yahuwah, your Elohim, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our mighty one, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive, as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah our mighty one, as he has commanded us. All right, y'all. So remember, that means to think about what we're thinking about, right? Not just talk about it, meditate on it, think about it, because what happens here in life, in 3D, real time, right? What we meditate on is what becomes, right? If we continue to meditate on it, we'll begin to play it out. So that is the sign between the frontlets of our eyes and on our hand. The hand represents the action. The frontlets between our eyes is talking about what we think about, what we meditate on, right? And what's going on inwardly will display itself outwardly. We shall write them upon the posts of our house, meaning command our household in these ways of life, right? And on our gates, right? Anybody that enters, right? The city, everything, it should be. But the thing that we can control is our own household. and how we act when we go out into the city gates, right? So if everybody do their own part, the city will be good. All right, Jeremiah chapter 10, Kenneth, peace and blessings. All right, idolatry brings destruction. Hear the word that Yahuwah speaks to you, O Israel. This is what Yahuwah says. Do not act like the other nations who try to read their future in the stars. Do not be afraid of their predictions, even though other nations are terrified by them. Their ways are futile and foolish. They cut down a tree, and the craftsman carves an idol. They decorate it with gold and silver, and then fasten it securely with hammer and nails so it won't fall over. Their gods are like helpless scarecrows in a cucumber field. They cannot speak, and they need to be carried because they cannot walk. Don't be afraid of such gods, for they can neither harm you nor do you any good. And clearly we know that they're still trying to do this. There are people who are trying to read their future in the stars, right? It's a time clock. There are certain things that you can tell, but you are not to try and predict your future by these things, right? Use them for their intended purposes, right? It's a time clock. It's to teach us about nature, and you can, that's simply what you use it for, people. Don't go ahead and try to read your horoscopes and all this stuff, right? Although a lot of the stuff may seem like it's right, I'm just telling you. Be careful with the truth and the error that's mixed up into the whole horoscope thing, right? Use it for what it was designed for by Yah, right? Okay. Verse 6. Yahuwah, there is no one like you, for you are great and your name is full of power. Who would not fear you, O King of nations? That title belongs to you alone. Among all the wise people of the earth and in the kingdoms of the world, there is no one like you. People who worship idols are stupid and foolish. The things they worship are made of wood. They bring beaten sheets of silver from Tarshish and gold from Euphaz, and they give these materials to skillful craftsmen who make their idols. Then they dress these gods in royal blue and purple robes made by expert tailors. But Yahuwah is the only true God. He is the living God and the everlasting King. The whole earth trembles at his anger. The nations cannot stand up to his wrath. Say this to those who worship other gods. Heaven and earth will vanish. Hold on. Your so gods who did not make the heavens and earth will vanish from the earth and from under the heavens. But Yahuwah made earth by his power, and he preserves it by his wisdom. With his own understanding, he stretched out the heavens. When he speaks in thunder, the heavens roar with rain. He causes the cloud to rise over the earth. He sends the lightning with the rain and releases the wind from his storehouses. The whole human race is foolish and has no knowledge. Oh, y'all, I'm sorry. Hold on. I just thought about this. I did not double check and make sure these settings on Facebook. Let me double check it real quick. I'm sorry. Because some people say they can't get in or they didn't get the notifications. It was slipping my mind. Once I post a video, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. When I post a video for the children, I make it like for friends only. But once I do that, it begins automatically changing everything to, yep, see, there it is. Hold on. They changed the privacy. Public. Okay. Okay, yeah. It changes everything to the more private setting. And then I don't realize it's doing it if I don't check it in the morning. I said I was going to check it, but I forgot. But I just remember right now, so I'm sorry for interrupting y'all. Okay. Josiah, shalom. Divine and Dana, shalom. Okay. Let's go back to verse 11. Say this to those who worship other gods. Your so-called gods who did not make the heavens and earth will vanish from the earth and from under the heavens. But Yahuwah made the earth by his power, and he preserves it by his wisdom. With his own understanding he stretched out the heavens. When he speaks in the thunder, the heavens roar with rain. He causes the clouds to rise over the earth. He sends the lightning with the rain, and releases the wind from his storehouses. The whole human race is foolish and has no knowledge. The craftsmen are disgraced by the idols they make, for their carefully shaped works are a fraud. These idols have no breath or power. Idols are worthless. They are ridiculous lies. On the day of reckoning, they will all be destroyed. But the God of Israel is no idol. He is the creator of everything that exists, including Israel, his own special possession. Yahuwah, the Lord of heaven's armies, is his name. The coming destruction. Verse 17. Pack your bags and prepare to leave. The siege is about to begin. For this is what Yahuwah says. Suddenly I will fling out all you who live in this land. I will pour great troubles upon you, and at last you will feel my anger. My wound is severe, and my grief is great. My sickness is incurable, but I must bear it. My home is gone, and no one is left to help me rebuild it. My children have been taken away, and I will never see them again. The shepherds of my people have lost their senses. They no longer seek wisdom from Yahuwah. Therefore, they fail completely, and their flocks are scattered. Listen, hear the terrifying roar of great armies as they roll down from the north. The towns of Judah will be destroyed and become a haunt for jackals. I know, Yahuwah, that our lives are not our own. We're not able to plan our own course. So correct me, Yahuwah, but please be gentle. Do not correct me in anger, for I would die. Pour out your wrath on the nations that refuse to acknowledge you, on the peoples that do not call on your name. For they have devoured your people Israel, and they have devoured and consumed them, making the land a desolate wilderness. All right, y'all. Next chapter, Jeremiah, chapter 11. 19. Wholeness. Judah's broken covenant. Yahuwah gave another message to Jeremiah. He said, remind the people of Judah and Jerusalem about the terms of my covenant with them. Say to them, this is what Yahuwah, the God of Israel, says. Cursed is anyone who does not obey the terms of my covenant. For I said to your ancestors when I brought them out of the iron smelting furnace of Egypt, if you obey me and do whatever I command you, then you will be my people and I will be your God. I said this so I could keep my promise to your ancestors and give you a land flowing with milk and honey, and the land you live in today. Then I replied, Amen, Yah, may it be so. And then Yahuwah said, broadcast this message in the streets of Jerusalem. Go from town to town throughout the land and say, remember the ancient covenant and do everything it requires. For I solemnly warned your ancestors when I brought them out of Egypt, obey me. I have repeated this warning over and over to this day. But your ancestors did not listen or even pay attention. Instead, they stubbornly followed their own evil desires. And because they refused to obey, I brought upon them all the curses described in this covenant. Again, Yahuwah spoke to me and said, I have discovered a conspiracy against me among the people of Judah and Jerusalem. They have returned to the sins of their ancestors. They have refused to listen to me and are worshiping other gods. Israel and Judah have both broken the covenant I made with their ancestors. Therefore, this is what Yahuwah says. I am going to bring calamity upon them, and they will not escape. Though they beg for mercy, I will not listen to their cries. Then the people of Judah and Jerusalem will pray to their idols and burn incense before them. But the idols will not save them when disaster strikes. Look now, people of Judah, you have as many gods as you have towns. You have as many altars of shame altars for burning incense to your god Baal, as there are streets in Jerusalem. Listen to this. About to tell them again. Pray no more for these people, Jeremiah. Do not weep or pray for them, for I will not listen to them when they cry out to me in distress. What do my beloved people... Oh, yeah. I was reading that wrong. I thought I was reading wrong. What right do my beloved people have to come to my temple when they have done so many immoral things? Can their vows and sacrifices prevent their destruction? They actually rejoice in doing evil. I, Yahuwah, once called them a thriving olive tree, beautiful to see and full of good fruit. But now I have sent the fury of their enemies to burn them with fire, leaving them charred and broken. I, Yahuwah, the God of heaven's armies, who planted this olive tree, have ordered it destroyed. For the people of Israel and Judah have done evil, arousing my anger by burning incense to Baal, a plot against Jerusalem. Then Yahuwah told me about the plots my enemies were making against me. I was like a lamb being led to the slaughter. I had no idea that they were planning to kill me. Let's destroy this man and all his words, they say. Let's cut him down so his name will be forgotten forever. O Yahuwah of heaven's armies, you make righteous judgments, and you examine the deepest thoughts and secrets. Let me see your vengeance against them, for I have committed my cause to you. This is what Yahuwah says about the men of Anathoth who want me dead. They said, we will kill you if you do not stop prophesying in Yahuwah's name. So this is what Yahuwah, the Lord of heaven's army, says about them. I will punish them. Their young men will die in battle, and their boys and girls will starve to death. Not one of these plotters from Anathoth will survive, for I will bring disaster upon them when their time of punishment comes. Last chapter for the day, Jeremiah chapter 12. Okay. Jeremiah questions Yahuwah's justice. Yahuwah, you always give me justice when I bring a case before you. So let me bring you this complaint. Why are the wicked so prosperous? Why are evil people so happy? You have planted them, and they have taken root and prospered. Your name is on their lips, but you are far from their hearts. But as for me, Yahuwah, you know my heart. You see me and test my thoughts. Drag these people away like sheep to be butchered. Set them aside to be slaughtered. How long must this land mourn? Even the grass in the fields has withered. The wild animals and birds have disappeared because of the evil in this land. For the people have said, Yahuwah doesn't see what's ahead for us. Yahuwah's reply to Jeremiah. If racing against mere men makes you tired, how will you race against horses? If you stumble and fall on open ground, what will you do in the thickets near the Jordan? Even your brothers, members of your own family, have turned against you. They plot and raise complaints against you. Do not trust them, no matter how pleasantly they speak. I have abandoned my people, my special possession. I have surrendered my dearest ones to their enemies. My chosen people have roared at me like a lion of the forest, so I have treated them with contempt. My chosen people act like speckled vultures, but they themselves are surrounded by vultures. Bring on the wild animals to pick their corpses clean. Many rulers have ravaged my vineyard, trampling down the vines and turning all its beauty into a barren wilderness. They have made it an empty wasteland. I hear its mournful cry. The whole land is desolate, and no one even cares. On all the bare hilltops, destroying armies can be seen. The sword of Yahuwah devours people from one end of the nation to the other. No one will escape. My people have planted wheat, but are harvesting thorns. They have worn themselves out, but it has done them no good. They will harvest a crop of shame because of the fierce anger of Yahuwah. a message for Israel's neighbors. Now this is what Yahuwah says. I will uproot from their land all the evil nations reaching out for the possession I gave my people Israel. I will uproot Judah from among them, but afterward I will return and have compassion on all of them. I will bring them home to their own lands again, each nation to its own possession. If these nations truly learn the ways of my people, if they learn to swear by my name, saying, as surely as Yahuwah lives, just as they taught my people to swear by the name of Baal, then they will be given a place among my people. But any nation who refuses to obey me will be uprooted and destroyed. I, Yahuwah, have spoken. And that was the last chapter for today, y'all. That was Jeremiah 10, 11, and 12. All right, so let's head on over here to Fossilized Customs. Demi, shalom, say shalom. All right, y'all. Okay, so we left off on page 245. What was we talking about yesterday? I forgot. Oh, we were still talking about the Sabbath and the new moons and the relationship between the two and how you can decipher one from the other and how you can't just apply one thing to all the other months. And so it was bringing distinction between and, like this one and this one. Not that and is a conjunction, like they're the same, but it's differentiating them, like Sabbaths and new moons are different. And just because one is a rest day doesn't mean that the other is a rest day, because they're in the same tense, in the same sentence, and joined by the word and. So it kind of gave a couple examples and stuff. And I think I gave a couple stories. I gave a couple examples. Okay. So I marked right here. I'm thinking if I should. Let's just go back up. Wait a minute. Oh, let's go back up to the beginning of the page where it says even here. It's just a paragraph before we stop. Okay. Even here, there is a distinction between new moons and Sabbaths. Okay. So the let's go back so you can hear the scripture was talking about. It is Colossians 2:16. Let no one therefore judge you in eating or drinking, or in respect of a festival or a new moon or Sabbath, which are a shadow of what is to come. Even here there is a distinction between new moons and Sabbaths, and they are shadows of what is to come. A shadow is understood to mean a metaphor or example of something else. It points to a coming reality, like a rough outline, and it is a semblance and is insubstantial. If we condemn one another over an unreal, indistinct pattern, we are wrong, even if we're right. If we get everything perfect yet lack love, we fail. Jatina, shalom, shalom. Okay. We talked about that a little bit, how it's just easier to catch more flies with honey than it is with vinegar, right? With things that are sweet, you'll get people's attention instead of coming down on them, talking about them, calling them heathens and all this kind of craziness that we kind of see as a pattern. People, even if you, like what he just said right here, he said, hold on. Yeah, right here. This is a great example. It says, if we get everything perfect yet lack love, we fail. Because you can be telling somebody the truth, but your attitude towards them and your lording your knowledge of the truth over them and making them feel insignificant and just not conveying it to them in a loving manner, even if you get everything perfect and all your information is on point, right? You still fail because you lack love, and that person is lost to you, right? That person is like, he or she may not be a lost cause, but they're definitely lost to you, right? You have completely burnt that bridge up with them, right? Because too many people not going to take kindly, especially if they don't really know you for real. Now, some people, if they know you, And they know how you are, and they know you a little, might be a little bit of self-righteousness going on, and a little bit of immaturity. And a lot of times it's really only people who's older than you or more mature than you that are able to see that don't quickly write you off like, okay, they'll get it, they still growing a little bit. But they ain't really, not saying you can't teach more mature people something when you're immature, because you actually can. And those who are wise and learn to glean wisdom from everything, right? Although I'm older and wiser than my children, I glean a lot of wisdom from my children, right? I ain't too proud to beg. I mean, I ain't not too proud to beg. I ain't too proud to say that I can learn from a child, right? I could be corrected by a child. And it's that same thing. It's the people with those type of attitudes where we got it perfect, you don't know, we got all the information, boom, and here's my stuff. Even if you give references and stuff like that, if you can't convey that and share that information with people in love, and you got everything perfect, you are 100% correct, but you missed that whole love piece. Even if you get it perfect, sis, you still lose. You still fail, right? I'll read that again. Look. If we condemn one another over an unreal, indistinct pattern, we are wrong, even if we're right. If we get everything perfect, yet lack love, we fail. Many articles have been written debunking the idea that the first day of each new moon is a Sabbath. Not only have many sincere Nazarene begun to believe each new moon is a Sabbath, but they also reset the pattern of the 7-day week each new moon. This reshuffles the 7-day week into a new beginning each month for these folks, and each new moon begins with the 7th day of rest, counting from nothing. We talk about this a lot, right? See, you can't just harp on one little piece of information, because just saying it out loud, because I ran into that when we was first looking at it and looking at the, like, literally tracking it. And people like, what? You resetting it every month? Like, saying that without actually going and testing it so you can see what we're saying. Because sometimes when you hear stuff, it doesn't, it may not always click, and so you can see, no, look, let me show you exactly what I'm saying, and here is why. Here, and it all works out perfectly, right? But sometimes people have to, that's why I say y'all go test everything, go look into it for yourself. You have to see, because sometimes, and it could be that you're not explaining it the right way, but we can tell. This book was written here. Oh, okay, this is what I was looking for. It says author's research spans 1983 to 2015, right? So even all through that, and I was born in 79. So all the time he spent researching, mind you, I was a baby during these years, like literally just born a few years prior, when he started researching all this stuff, and all that he has in here is current as of to 2015, and this was printed. This was printed a year later in 2016. So he took all those years, 1983 to 2015, to study. Not that he started out, okay, I'm going to write a book, but just through his course of time as he was waking up to different truths and stuff, all the information that he had gathered, he compiled and put it in book form, and this was printed. This one was printed in 2016, which we know there were previous printings because there are different versions. I have a couple of different versions, like what is it? Like the 6th edition and the 7th edition and the 9th edition. So through all these years, but the most recent one is the 12th edition, which was printed what's it, 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, almost 6 years ago, right? So that's why you'll hear me a few times say I'm waiting for him to do a update of some of this stuff, because even back then, people, they apparently encountered people who were saying some of the same stuff that you hear me say, and if they would just go to explain it to him without him actually going to do the research, follow the days and stuff, because I don't think anybody can truly have this argument if they've actually gone out and did, like, not saying that he hasn't, but at least he doesn't have it in his book that he has. Like, you can't continue to have one point of view when you actually go to test something and see that something is off. And so clearly, even his day before compiling this, he's running to people who have actually been saying this, because he's talking about it right here. And he was telling them that you can't do this and reset it. And what happens is people start to say, okay, well, if you reset it, how do you do that? And you will have, like, okay, so you might have 2 Sabbaths in a week, and that would be all off. But I used to think that way too, like I said, till I started tracking. I'm like, wait a minute, this works out perfectly. And there's still never like 2 Sabbaths, like literally 2 weekly Sabbaths. They never merge into weeks. They never overlap, at least from my data so far, from the last 3 years of tracking, because that's what I was looking for. You would never, by counting it this way and following through, it's like always perfect, right? And it's always perfectly aligning with the feast days. And the feast days are time markers throughout the year, which seems, at least in my experience and my calculations, everything seems to flow perfectly. So by reading this, it looks like it's right until you actually go out and test it and follow it and track the data. That's not something well, in his course of time, had he tracked it from all these years, 1983 to 2015, and even in 2016 before he printed, some of this stuff he would have had to adjust it, because he would see exactly what we're saying, right? So that's how I wanted to point that out, just in case somebody got it and reading it and they go through like, oh, well, they doing exactly what he talking about we ain't supposed to be doing. But I'm telling you, we didn't just, oh, we're going to do it just this way. No, we're actually testing and proving everything, right? Coming out the church, we know we've been led astray way too long, and a lot of the stuff we weren't taught. So we have to get those teachings from outside. We got to go study this stuff ourselves, and then we begin to run into some of these issues. When we begin to run into these issues, and we begin Google them and YouTubing them and looking it up, clearly people have some of these same questions. Why? Because these things become obvious when you step away from indoctrination and just begin to look at truth and what is there. Normal questions in the course of life, or just like children, but why? But why? But why? Like, they're innocent questions because they're truly wondering why. Like, their whole curiosity begins to be renewed in you because you begin to see things with fresh eyes when you're not plugged in. And that whole source of power feeding you the indoctrination and lies and sweet stories and stuff, all that stops. You got time to detox, right? And you got your thoughts now that can rise to the surface because nobody else is constantly preaching at you and hollering and teaching you error, right? So when you stop that, you get a break. Like, there's literally a break. There is a silence, right? And now your voice can surface to the top. I'm like, I never noticed that before. I don't remember my pastor was saying this, but wait a minute. I didn't notice something. They never mentioned this, or, oh, snap. Pastor, did you know this was in here? Like, I never heard you read it. I know you say take out your Bibles and read this, but you always stop right there. But what about this? You know, so, and it's like, but why? But why? Wait a minute. But okay, so you never said this. This looked like it's saying something else from what you was teaching us. It was saying, like, all this stuff begins to kick in. Natural questions begin to arise. And everybody begins to have some of these same questions, right? Because it's obvious and it would seem to be common sense, but some things aren't so common to some people, right? But when we begin to ask these common sense questions, like, why you got 2 eyes on your face then, right? And people, like, you know, it just common sense questions, and people treat you like you stupid. But they only do that because it's one or two things. Either they themselves don't know and they're too prideful to tell you, look, I don't know. I can't even tell you for real, but that's a good question, right? Or 2, they know and they see you are a direct threat to the income of their household, of their livelihood. Because if you start talking to people about this, they might all start asking questions and withholding their tithes and offering from the church bucket, right? Or whatever ministry they got, right? They look at you like a threat, right? So I just wanted to bring that out. So I'm just saying, test everything. I know we're gonna read over some stuff that I completely go against, right? But I keep on reading it just to point these things out, just in case You missed the first few times I talked about it, and why we do it is because we test it. Now, if we continue to move on and we testing stuff and we run into something we've never run into before, we're going to pause for a second. Wait a minute. Okay, here's a new variable. Okay, let's see. Has this been, or when we recognize a new variable, wait a minute, has this always been there? Have we just not seen it? Okay, wait a minute. Okay, let's go back. We got to look through this whole thing again and just make sure that we're not off, right? And so we do that. That's what a good researcher does, right? Be diligent. Be good stewards. Don't just take stuff and run with it, but actually test stuff. Make sure people ain't leading you to a hidden cliff, right? Okay. I'll just read this again. Many articles have been... Oh, I went all the way back up. Hold on. Oh, no, it didn't. Okay. Many articles have been written debunking the idea that the first day of each new moon is a Sabbath. Not only have many sincere Nazarene began to believe each new moon is a Sabbath, but they also reset the pattern of the 7-day week each new moon. This reshovels the 7-day week into a new beginning each month for these folks, and each new moon begins with the 7th day rest, counting from nothing. The final few days of this pattern chop the last week of their month off with the abrupt arrival of a sudden 7th day. That absolutely does not happen, right? So if you read this, I can see what he's saying, but that's why I say you definitely have to test this, because if he tested that, he will see that it doesn't. It's like a perfect flow, right? Okay. It is not, well, he's saying it's not harmonious at all, but it completely is. You have to test that. And it takes a couple years to get the pattern and actually understand it, right? Because at first I was like, oh, yes, there's a sun and there's a moon. Okay. I'm going out there, okay, the Big Dipper, what is that even? I hear people talking about it, like getting familiar with what's actually in the sky, you know, and where they're positioned at different times of the day. And the more you look at it, you know how sometimes you just got to read over stuff until you, like, get it? That's literally what I had to do. Like, I probably have to read over stuff more than others until I get it. Sometimes it just takes me a little while to get stuff, but since I know that, I'll just keep reading it. That's why, I don't know, some people are like, how you can, I was like, because I know how I learn. I know, especially if you're getting real high tech with terminology and stuff, I'm like, look, can you break this down to me like you was explaining this to my 4-year-old daughter? But I know that about me, so I know the more I read it and I have to go look up terms, I have to make sure that I understand point by point. Then I have to read it over again. Okay, a little bit more, click in. Then a little bit more, click in, and then a little bit more, click in until, oh, okay, oh yeah, you know, when somebody catch me on the end part of that where I can just rattle it off, they be like, man, no, I was struggling at the beginning. I couldn't tell the sun from the moon. That's why I said 3 years, and it's still like a lot of stuff I don't know, right? But if you go do that, you will see that what he put, at least his understanding of, I can tell by the words that he used that he hasn't done that, right? He's really book smart in his research, but there's not a lot of testing in regards to this. Although he has a lot of words about this, I can tell there's not a lot of testing he's done with this, aside from just going out looking and just going about his day without actually pulling up these things, you know. Okay. The final few days of this pattern chop the last week of their month off with the abrupt arrival of a sudden 7th-day Sabbath. It's not harmonious at all, which we know. I just talked about that. It absolutely does flow. The pulse of the first week of creation is lost to those who follow this pattern. And so they have become observers of some lunar-based Sabbath system. It's not lunar-based, right? Because he just keeps harping on just the moon. Lunar simply is referring to the moon, right? It's, what is it with the stars? It's lunisolar plus the stars. You're using the sun, moon, and the stars, right? If the weekly Sabbath is set by the new moon, the arrangement of the week is under constant change. During the week of creation, the moon was brought forth on the 4th day and is simply called the lesser light to rule over the night. It is also used to calculate the appointed times or annual Sabbaths, referred to as high Sabbaths. The greater light, the sun, is used to calculate day and night. And so clearly he knows that, but he still keeps harping on the moon. Or maybe he's just talking about the ones that are just using the moon alone, which doesn't apply to us, because we know We have to use all of them in conjunction together to come to the proper counting, which is what the, like I said, always say, which is what the book of Enoch specifically talks about. Men err by this, right? By not appropriately counting the moon along with the sun and the stars. And because of those transition days, the days where the moon is black, when she's in her new moon state, there are transition days where you can't see her until she gets the first sliver of light. Those black days, which are considered new moon, she's new, but you can't call her new moon until you can see the new moon, right? Auntie here, no Auntie ain't. I don't see Auntie. Boom, boom, open the door. Oh, there. Yes, Auntie's here. I can see her now. She's here, you know. We can know she coming. Hey, open the door. Like my husband do all the time. Hey, babe, open the door. I'm outside. Okay, I look out the window. You outside or where? Oh, I'm about to pull up. Oh, you said you was outside. You know what I meant. You know, but I know, just like we know the new moon is coming, because this is the time we know this black, we know, okay, she coming, right? He done called me, okay, I just about the time he coming. But I can't call because the kids gonna be like, I'm like, kids, dad is here. They run to the window. No, he not. Oh, there you go. We can see him. We can see that. Same thing with the new moon. When you, that's how you begin calculating. When you can see, oh, there she go. You know, we can see her now, right? Just in case some people get kind of confused about that, right? Everything can be proven. Exodus 16, verse 1 tells us that the Israelites were traveling on the 15th day of the second moon. How this will be weighed by Yahuwah, the righteous judge of us all, is unknowable. He told us that stumbling blocks would come, but woe to those through whom they come. Those who ignore the Sabbath each week, the real one, are cut off from Israel, and death is proclaimed as their judgment. If the moon were involved in such a vitally important operation as calculating the weekly Sabbath, it seems he would have mentioned it somewhere in his Torah. Even through the 29.5 days in each moon, even though the 29.5 days in each moon don't divide evenly by 7, this doesn't matter to them. The moon comes and they reset their week, and it begins the new moon day as a Sabbath. It doesn't. See, even that is wrong. But you do have people, I've run into them. Some people say, like, there's one, I'm not going to call any names, but there is somebody that I follow on YouTube, and he has good teaching. Some stuff is a little off, but some stuff is correct. But I like him. Why? Even though some of his stuff is a little off still, I've known him to adjust his teachings. He was like, oh, family, and him and his wife, right? Oh, we made a mistake. Forgive me. I didn't look at this. And they're real big on putting the calendar out. And sometimes some of the days are off, and they use the book of Enoch a lot. But I'm like, how do you use this and you say this and it's still off? Like, have you not, like, that's the part I don't quite get. But I do get it because they still heavily rely and line up everything with what the Jewish people are saying. And once I realized that, I'm like, oh, that's what they're doing. That's why. And so everything that they do always lines up with what the Jewish people are doing. They even say the new year begins in September during Rosh Hashanah. Yahuwah does not say that. The new year for us begins when? During Passover time, right? Because Yahuwah specifically said this. I even asked a question. He never responded to my question. I'm like, please explain this to me. How are you still calling this? I said, maybe I'm looking at something wrong. How are you still calling this the beginning of the year when Yahuwah specifically says this is the beginning of the year for you, right? For my people, for Israel. Passover time is the Passover month is the first month of the year for you, and always is, right? He never changed that. So it's little things like that, but he's still going with that. But I've noticed him to change other things once he goes and really looks into it, and he's convinced that he realized, oh, they were right. He will adjust. So that's why I keep looking at him, because their heart is good, right? They seem like really genuine people, and they anybody that watched them knows that they will correct themselves once they realize it's wrong. They may not do it in our time, or well, what about this? Because maybe they're too busy. They haven't had a chance to really go research that yet. But I can tell you do research, and when you take the time to go do it, and you realize a point that somebody else other than you or your wife has brought out, you will come back. They will apologize, and they will correct it. So, family, we were wrong about this. So somebody asked us this question, and we decided, we really took the time, we went through this, and here's what we found. And we realized we weren't considering all the information that's available. You know, we overlooked it last time, which is why we believe this way. But now we're adjusting this because we got the proof. We cannot deny this, right? So there's people like that. I'm like, okay. So remember, like I say, be patient with people while they work out their own salvation. Everybody don't have everything 100% correct. Even myself, right? I'm gonna have a couple people that privately, oh, wait a minute, you right. Oh shoot, hold on, let me go back, right? But some things they may bring up that I'm convinced on, I'll just like go back and double check, because they may bring up a valid point, which causes me to like, wait a minute, okay, that was a valid point. Let me just double check, make sure I'm solid, and I'll go back. Oh, I missed this. That's still what I was saying, but this is like further proof. This is a testing point here. Okay, this, and we'll kind of talk back and forth. This, oh, well, you right. Okay, yeah, you know. So we can sit down. We can talk it out, kind of go through it, and you know, iron sharpens iron, right? Okay. Even though the true Sabbath is supposed to be the seventh day of each week, they let the moon tell them when the seventh day is. The previous week, which the same moon set for them, is interrupted with the sudden arrival of a new seventh day, the first day of the moon. The first day of the moon is the seventh day of their week. Careful, you could get cross-eyed thinking about this too long. Truly you can. This week is simply not in the sky, but set by the counting of days. The greater light determines these days, and we all have what? He missed a word. The greater light determines these days, and all we have to do, no, then I missed the word. And all we have to do is count to 7, the number of completion. How could anyone possibly go for such a system? They read scriptures which make them get panicky and so hunt for other clues. Amos chapter 8, verse 5 brings out a question many claim links the week to the moon. When does the new moon pass so we sell grain, and the Sabbath so we trade our wheat, to make the ephah small and the shekel large, and to falsify the scales by deceit, to buy the poor for silver and the needy for a pair of sandals, and sell the chaff of the wheat. The context of this verse in Amos shows that these are a list of things Yahuwah finds displeasing to him. The moon worship of that period had led many to observe strange customs, blending it with his Torah. If we add to the Torah by reading something into the meanings of the sentences like Amos 5, we can trouble ourselves. According to the Torah, resting on the new moon from work only applies to one of the new moons. The particular new moon spoken of in Amos 8 and 5 was the 7th moon, the harvest time of some grain they wish to sell. Here is a list of reasons the lunar Sabbaths are in error. So while we're going through this list, remember, he is just simply talking about the people who only use the moon. Remember, I just want to keep repeating this just in case. We do not only use the moon, and he knows that he's talking about those who only do that. And just in case some people have gotten confused, because I talk about it a lot, mind you that we're using not just the moon, although you can identify the months by them, but if you sit and you calculate it, you will know that what we're saying can be proven, right? So we're not just using only the moon over here, right? We use the sun, the moon, and the stars, okay? But he's talking about those who just use the moon, all right? Here is a list of reasons the lunar Sabbaths, or just the moon calculation Sabbaths, are in error. Reason number 1, Torah doesn't know about it. The Sabbaths of Yahuwah are listed at Leviticus 23, verses 1 through 44, and Deuteronomy chapter 16, verses 1 through 18. These are listed carefully, and only one new moon is designated as being distinguished from the other common new moons as a day of resting from labor. No indication is given that any other new moon is Kodesh or set apart as a day of rest in any way. Further, there is no hint that the weekly Sabbath is related in any way to the moon phases. This is entirely a misreading of the text in Isaiah chapter 66, verse 23. If Father Yahuwah wanted us to know that every new moon was a Sabbath, all he had to do was say so. By the act of telling us that the seventh new moon was a Sabbath, he told us by deduction that the other new moons were not days of rest, and therefore he distinguished the seventh new moon for us. And clearly, if we're paying attention, if we reading through the stories, like especially during the time of King Saul and the time he had it out for David, you would notice when they have a new moon festival, like it wasn't a Sabbath. They actually feasted on those days. So it will call it out, and we know, like he said, just by deduction and looking at some of the other scriptures of what they did when the new moon, when it was the new moon, the beginning of the month, they had feasts. So the time that David was missing, they were actually having the new moon feast. And Saul asked Jonathan, hey, David see this empty, where is he? But David had already told Jonathan, look, if your daddy start looking for me, tell him this, because he out for me. And I ain't trying to go sit at the festival tonight and he kill me at the table with everybody. I just I added some words to that. But if you're familiar with the story, that's essentially what he said. He like, I ain't showing up, your daddy trying to kill me, right? I ain't gonna be there. So give him this story or something. The first night it was a couple-day festival that they celebrated, and I think it was the second day when Saul noticed that David wasn't there, when he actually asked Jonathan, hey, is David sick or something, or he might be unclean, right? So first he thought the first day, okay, he might be sick, or he may have done something in the course of the day which caused him to be unclean, so he can't be here. So Saul didn't say anything the first night. But the second day, when he was missing, he asked Jonathan, right? Okay. But it's a couple different places like that where they call out the new moon days where they're actually feasting and stuff, and it wasn't a Sabbath. Like, they aren't Sabbaths, right? I agree with Dave. New moons aren't Sabbaths, but some people actually teach that they are. All right. Okay. Reason number 2. There are examples of work done on the first day of the new moon. So clearly, at Genesis 8, verse 13, Noah removed the covering of the ark he spent 100 years building. It was the first day of the moon. At Numbers 1:1, the first day of the second moon.
Where's your bracelet?
It's upstairs. I didn't put it on. It's on my nightstand.
I checked and I don't know where it is.
Because it's probably covered up. There are examples of work done on the first day of the moons. At Genesis 8:13, Noah removed the covering of the ark he spent 100 years building. It was the first day of the moon. Make sure you put some Vaseline on your lips, too. At Numbers 1:1, on the first day of the second moon, a census was taken of all of Israel. How odd is that? At Ezra chapter 7, verse 9, this prophet was journeying on 2 new moons, right? So he called that stuff out that I just mentioned. All right, reason number 3. The Sabbath is the 7th day of each week after 6 days work. But if you restart each new moon with this Sabbath rest, then it becomes the 7th day of a new week without having a previous 6 work days for that week. And that sounds logical, but when you actually calculate it out, y'all, it just, even looking at my data would show that that's not how it actually falls out. Saying that, it sounds logical, but when you actually track it, it flows perfectly. I'm not sure if anybody, since you start, I'm not sure if you're doing it, but if you're following it how we've been following it, you will see if you actually write it down in a calendar and look at the data, it flows perfectly. There's always, let me show y'all. Like, because what he's saying, I'm telling you, I gotta go to the bigger month. Like, it flows absolutely perfectly, right? There's not like an extra day in a week, like there is 8 days, or then you got 2 Sabbaths, like back to back, where you got 2 work days. What he's saying is sounding logical, but like I said, when you write it down and you observe it and you track your data, you will see it flows freaking perfectly. There's not a day missed. Hold on, I'm gonna show you a couple months because I got them highlighted here. I can show you all year. I could go get my books from the last couple years and show you the pattern. Okay, so I'll show you. I got it highlighted. Okay, so what's this? This is
Mom.
Yes, boy.
Look, that's another thing.
Get the one up there. Okay, so let me show you real quick. Keep my spot. Okay, so right here in January, right? And so clearly at the beginning of the year, hold on, let me put this up here so you can see. So see where these were X'd out at? This is where I calculated wrong, right? And I was like, oh shoot, we ain't supposed, because remember I told you, I said, technology is great, but technology can be flawed depending on who put the information in there, right? So this at the beginning of the year was when we're like, oh shoot, we have to physically watch. Like, you can't slack up on actually going outside to watch because you don't know if technology has a glitch or something, right? So you still have to observe while you're using it. Like, it's convenient throughout the month if you know the major dates or whatever throughout the month, just looking at the moon or where we at in the month or whatever. You can kind of coast a couple days and glance at the app. Okay, we right on track. But what I noticed though, there's one app that didn't adjust their days, but there was one app that did and actually showed it right. Okay, so here's where I miscalculated, and then I realized, oh shoot, the new moon didn't show. What? And that was when everybody, I was like, wait, everybody missed it. So that means everybody didn't got laziness in using technology, right? At least the people that I saw. So I fixed it, right? And right here, and then when the new moon falls, it's perfectly. That's why when you hold on, can you see that? Every time a new moon falls, it's like I gotta figure out how to explain this on how it does it, because look, people like how do I explain this? And he brought it up, but I still think this being explained the wrong way. Okay, well, the first day the moon wasn't there. Like, he didn't even create this till like the 4th day, because he just brought it out here, right? But I'm still trying to find the words to explain that the proper way, because that lines up with how it's being calculated, because it always falls perfectly. So when you track the data, and also you can see when I track it, I was putting the moon phase to see, okay, where are we at here, and what does the sky look like, right? So here's a new moon, then you count between these days and 7th, which is a Sabbath, and you count through here 7th, the 7th day is a Sabbath, right? So you will also begin to notice a pattern that clearly the new moon will fall in the last week of the month of the last Sabbath of the month. Yes, Tootie. Yeah, it's right there. So when you calculate it, they're never.
I cannot get it.
Okay, we gotta wait a minute. Cool. There is never, the way it's calculated, like I said, it's always perfect. So there's never an extra day in the week, like an 8-day week, or there's not a day taken away. Oh, wait, it's only 5 days. And then we count like it. That never happens. Because when I noticed, I was like, oh, wait, we might run into a problem. Okay, so that was January 2021. Right, boom. Okay, so then, what is this? Where we at? Oh, I skipped all the way to April. Hold on. Look. I'm just trying to show y'all the pattern. Like, I know y'all get it, but I'm going to show you here, right? Okay. So, even here, like, right, because this is from the previous month. This is the last week of that month where I miscalculated, and I pre-wrote out everything in here, and I had to go and cross it out. This was the actual Sabbath, right? So, then we follow, and 7 days from there was an actual, the new moon showed up. And then there's a Sabbath, and you go through, right? And so it all falls in line. Then we're at March. And then you have the the week. So whatever day, the last week of the month on how Yahuwah calculates it. This is March 20, and this is the end of the month of February here. Then we begin it down here with the cycle, and then the Sabbath fall here. It's like, remember the new moons from the data. New moons are like the line leaders of the Sabbaths for that monthly period, right? I hope this makes sense to y'all. I may not be explaining it the right way. That's what I'm kind of like trying to show you, like how I calculate, and I tried to highlight it. Yes, Tootie.
Look, this is easy.
Yes, it's easy. Don't break it, right? So, it's not over here. Okay. So since it's like towards the end of the month, it's gonna pick up over here. That was April. I don't know if y'all can see all this. I'm just trying to show y'all when you calculate it, you will see how it falls, right? They just like all fall in line, and it's like the days are always perfect. There's always 6 working days, no matter where the new moon falls at. When you calculate it and you count it, it's just counting of the days and everything. So like I said, you gotta actually do it and track it to see exactly what we're talking about, because if you just read it, sometimes it may get confusing, and what's being said, it sounds logical, like, well, yeah, you got a point, but I'm like, if you actually go track it, yes, Tootie, you will see exactly what we're talking about. What, Pooh?
You're calling me.
I don't know. I didn't answer it, Pooh. I'm live. Are you waiting for a phone call? Who?
You didn't get on.
I didn't get on it, but who are you waiting to call?
No, I said you.
Oh, no. I wasn't waiting for a phone call this morning. But it wasn't a real important one. Okay. So let's go back here to the reasons, right? Okay. Who's at reason number 3? Let's see. Let me read 3 again. Okay. The Sabbath is the 7th day of each week after 6 days' work. But if you restart each new moon with this Sabbath rest, then it becomes the 7th day of a new week without having a previous 6 work days for that week. The 7th day begins each of their months somehow and makes the 2nd day of each month the first day of their week. With an operation like this going on, you would think that our Father would have given at least a couple of sentences explaining the relationship of the moon to the week. He is totally silent about this relationship, and it would seem to be so if you're only reading what has been canonized, right? And just what has been canonized is not the only thing we should be looking at, right? There is the entire book of Enoch that gives very specific detail about this, but they don't count the book of Enoch as being inspired, because the early church fathers said, no, this is not the inspired. It's extra literary work, and it's fun to read, but it's not the inspired work of God, right? I'm like, y'all is dumb, right? But as you grow up, you'll begin to realize some of these things, like, wait a minute, because, okay, so we got this right. You gave us this canonization, but from your canonization, it looks like there is a missing piece, because this jumps from here all the way to here. What happened in between? Where did you pull this story from? Can I see where you pulled this from? Because it looks like you only added in here what you wanted to be here. Like the canonization, like the Holy Bible, is literally the entire Bible is literally cliff notes of bigger scrolls that are out there, and they're telling you this right here. This is all we want y'all to. The only this is inspired, and it's not. It's absolutely not. Yes, baby.
How I take this off?
Oh, you gotta unravel it. And a lot of people don't realize that, especially if they're full of indoctrination, right?
Oh, I can't. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Oh, she did. I might have to get some. Might have to get some scissors. This is all twisted up. Go find some scissors. Where my scissors? Uh-oh. Here you go. It came out. Her hair came out. Look, you still gonna need scissors to get that off. She was combing her dye baby hair, y'all. comb got stuck in her hair. All right. He knows how. Hold on. Let's see. But he is totally silent about this relationship. Again, these ideas don't come directly from Torah, but are inferred from phrases embedded in sentences. He knows how easily confused we can be. So by not mentioning something this important, it would have to mean that he is hoping to trick us. Okay. Which is not true, right? Because it's... Can you lift it up? He's not hoping to trick us. It's just we're lacking information, right? So people are running with something that they have half information on. But if you take it all and put it together, I ain't going to keep harping on it. Oh, yeah. Reason 4. Oh, my gosh. We're at an hour and 5 minutes. Okay. Let's read reason 4, then we'll pick back up tomorrow with reason 5.
Mommy.
Hold on, Pudding. Reason 4. The moon circles the earth in a period of approximately 29.5 days. For thousands of years, the same side of the moon has faced the earth perfectly synchronized with its orbital period and rate of rotation. Scientists cannot explain this circumstance, and mathematicians will tell you that it is almost infinitely probable to ever develop this way on any planetary system in the universe. And yet, the planet we all happen to live on has this bizarre, unlikely situation. If our Creator can do this, then he could just have as easily made the week fit into the moon's orbit by division and made the moon orbit in exactly 28 days. I see. Then he could have also told us to watch for the new moons and rest on each one. He could have also told us that each one of the new moons was also a 7th day of the week. Okay. That sounds logical, but like I said, when you put in the other information from Enoch and the other numbers that it gives and it shows you, because this is how here, and the moon is lit like 20 days out of the week, right? That's a perfect number you can kind of divide by, like seriously. So his information in here to me as of this day is incomplete with this printing, because I done studied the book of Enoch a lot, and I may not have it all down packed, but some of the stuff I know he's missing information on. So I hope you enjoyed the reading for the day, y'all. We are over our hour mark today, and it's Monday. People gotta get to work, right? And if you're supposed to be at work, you better go ahead and get off of here and render Caesar unto what is due unto him, right? Render to Caesar what is due unto Caesar, and render what is due unto him, right? All right, so that was Fossilized Customs, page 245 to page 247. We read Jeremiah chapter 10, 11, and 12. Guys, it is Monday, July the 19th, 2021, day 210.
I keep pressing
of
it.
year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. And of the 3-year consecutive, they count, they 879. All right, sweetie, hold on.
Mom, let's all do it.
Let's all do it. Hold on, wait, girl. Hold on.
Okay, right there.
Hold on, pull this up.
Here, video.
Well, don't, girl. You read the blessing.
Them are the doors.
No, they not. Look, Tootie, you about to be going out this camera in a second. Okay, look, stop doing it. Hold on. Blessing. There we go. All right, y'all. Remember, the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses is what? The Nazarite vow. Man or woman can take it, right? Okay. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. We out of here. Sally, shalom, shalom. All right, y'all. That's it.
I'm going to do this one.
Okay, you do that one. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.